Hello Longhorns and welcome to day 4 back to geometry. Today we're going to be covering radicals. Alright, so first off, what is a radical and how does it work? So think about the square root of 25. If you are good at mental math or you remember this from any point, you know that the square root of 25 is just 5, right? But what does this mean? What math are we doing behind it? Well, square root means what times itself is this number. So really, the square root of 25 looks like the square root of 5 times 5, and that tells us, oh, 5 times 5 is 25, therefore 5 is the square root of 25. And think about square root of 36. This would just equal 6, because 6 times 6 is 36. But what do we do if it's not what's called a perfect square? These are called perfect squares because they are whole numbers, but what do we do if it's not perfect? How do we simplify it? And first, we'll go back to that square root of 25. How do I simplify square root of 25? You're going to factor it in your calculator, which is menu 23. It'll show this thing that says factor. You'll type in the number you want to factor, which is just the argument, that number. Don't type square root of 25, just type 25. And it would tell you that it's 5 squared. Or, if I rewrite it out, it's 5 times 5. Now is the simplifying part. What you do is you circle anything that is there as a pair, anything that's there twice. Fancy way of saying it is that your pair goes outside the radical, loners go inside the radical. But a good way to remember it is, let's say you get married, well, you're going to leave the house and leave as one unit. So this turns into 5, and there's nothing left inside, so that radical goes away, and the answer is just 5. How do I simplify square root of 150? So again, we're going to factor it in our calculator, hit menu 23, type in factor 150. Beautiful. What this will tell you is that it's 2 times 3 times 5 squared, all still under the radical. You're going to rewrite it out, so we're really just going to change that 5 squared to 5 times 5. And again, we're going to couple up. Couples get married and leave the house as one. Singles stay on the inside. Now, if you have anything left on the inside or things that pull out together, you're going to multiply them together. So 2 times 3 equals 6. Let's simplify the square root of 40. First step is to factor it, and you would get 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. Now remember, we just circle pairs, so even though there's 3 2's, we're just going to circle 2 of them. Pairs get married and leave the house as 1. Single babies stay behind, and this simplifies to 2 square root of 10. Now let's simplify the square root of 72. First step, we're going to factor. You get 2 to the 3rd power times 3 squared, or 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. We're going to couple up. Remember, a couple is 2, so this 2 stays as a single, and couples leave the house as 1. So this time we're pulling out 2 numbers, and 1 stays inside. Now the numbers that pulled out get multiplied together, and this turns into 6 root 2. So adding or subtracting radicals, so what can we do with radicals after we simplify them? You can add, subtract, multiply, rationalize, or divide. When you add or subtract, your radical component must be identical. So right here we have 3 root 5 and 2 root 5. You can add those, that works. But 3 root 5 and 2 root 3, those don't match. So we cannot add those. Your steps to simplifying to add or subtract radicals is you simplify your radicals first, you add or subtract the numbers in front, but you leave the radical untouched. So what this looks like is I have 2 root 32 plus 4 root 50. First I'm going to simplify my radical. I'm going to factor 32, give it it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 plus 4 root 50. I want to factor 50, and it's 2 times 5 times 5. I'm going to circle my pairs. Pairs are going to leave the house, So I have this original 2, a new 2, a second pair 2, which would turn this into 8 root 2. I have a 5 pulled out with a 2 left behind. I need to multiply it by the number that was already in front, which was 4. So I have 8 root 2 and 20 root 2. I check that my radicals are the same. I have root 2 and root 2. So then I just do 20 plus 8 is 28 root 2. Think about it as if I had 8x plus 20x. This would be 28x. In this case, the x is like acting like it's the root 2, or the root 2 is acting like it's the x. Same thing for subtraction. First things first, you want to simplify. This is 3 times 5 times 5 minus 3 times 3 times 3. Couples leave the house as 1. So this turns into 5 root 3 minus 3 root 3. My radicals are the same, so I can subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2, root 3. Now to multiply radicals, you multiply your numbers in front, multiply the numbers inside, and simplify if necessary. So first step on this example, 4 root 5 times 2 root 15, I'm going to do 4 times 2. This is going to give me my outside number. That's 8. Then I draw my radical, and I multiply the insides. 5 times 15, that gives me 75. Now I want to check if I can simplify radical 75. So I have 8, and then 75 factored is 3 times 5 times 5. And I have this couple I can pull out. Leaves the house. I have 8 times 5 root 3, or 40 root 3. Trying it again, I have 3 root 6 times 5 root 21. First step is multiply the numbers on the outside, so 3 times 5 is 15. Then I draw my radical and multiply by the inside. 6 times 21 is 126. I want to see if 126 can simplify, so I factor it. I get 2 times 3 times 3 times 7. Couple up, get married, leave the house together as 1. 15 times 3, because this is the 3 that I pulled out. This was already here. I have 2 and 7 on the inside. 15 times 3 is 45. And 2 times 7 is 14. Lastly, I have what's called rationalizing. So rationalizing means I have something in the denominator that I don't want in there. In this case, I want to get a radical out of the denominator. In order to rationalize, I need to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the number in the denominator. So I'm going to look at the top and the bottom, and I'm going to multiply both of them by the radical in the bottom. So right here, I'm going to multiply the top by root 7. I'm going to multiply the bottom by root 7. Root 6 times root 7 is going to equal square root of 42. But root 7 times root 7 is the square root of 49. And if you simplify the square root of 49, that's just 7. So this turns into square root of 42 all over 7. Last example I have is I have 2 over 3 root 5. I go, oh no, I have a radical in the denominator and I don't like that, so I'm going to multiply by that radical, the top and the bottom by that radical, root 5 over root 5. This turns into 2 radical 5 over, and even though there's not a number in front, this is technically a 1 root 5, so 3 times 1 is 3, root 5 times root 5 is 25, and I go, oh, I can simplify that. I still have 2 root 5 on top. 3 times the square root of 25, which is 5, or 2 square root of 5 over 15. And that would be my final answer. That is it for today. Let me know if you guys have any questions.